Everybody, welcome back to a Supboarder video. In this video review, we're going to be looking at the FitOcean Force 13-2 touring board. This board may look like a similar board to other boards on the market, but there is a big difference with the nose section. With this board, you have a carbon nose on this board. Exactly the same nose shape you would find on a hard composite board, but on an inflatable board, and again, it is carbon fiber, so it looks $1,000,000 and it's nice and lightweight, and it really does perform well on this board as well, which we'll speak about in a bit. The dimensions of this board is 13 foot 2 long and it's 30 inches wide. Therefore, it's very much aiming at a touring, fast cruising style of board. It has a volume of 390 litres. It's 6 inches thick. When we weighed it, it weighed 9.67 kilograms or 21.28 pounds, and it retails at €999 or 830 pounds as a board and bag package. If you want a paddle, you can upgrade and pay a bit more for that as well. So in this standalone review, we are going to be looking at what it's like to transport to your paddling location, what the bag's like to use, what it's like to inflate, what it's like to paddle on the water, and obviously packing it away, giving you the full experience of if you own this board or took it paddling for the day. Also looking at a bit of information about the brand, the warranty, and the environmental awareness, if they have any as a company, and giving you the pros and cons to the product. And then highlighting what this board really is used for and if this board will be right for you as a paddler. But before we talk about those things, let's talk about the construction of this board, because this is a fairly lightweight board at just over 9 kilos. It has a woven double layer drop stitch, so that's the new drop stitch fabric that's a lot lighter than the more traditional older drop stitch. It's definitely the newer type of drop stitch that a lot of the more performance-based brands are moving on to. You've got multiple rail bands around the side there. It's got UV sunlight protective coating. They say that it has the best Xebec glue on the market. And another thing that's worth mentioning that's on the construction list is it is produced in a factory to German standards. Germans have got really good high standards when it comes to manufacturing anything, and because this is a Swiss engineered board but very much made and put together with a lot of German members of their team, you are going to guarantee you're going to get a high level of finish on any FitOcean board you buy. FitOcean have got a lot of other boards in their range, but they have got boards similar to this in the Race 14 foot by 26, and they also do a 12/6 version of this board, which is by 30 as well. So the rest of the features and fittings, let's talk about when we get paddling the board on the water. But the first thing you're going to do before you get to your paddle location is you're going to transport your board to the beach. Now, most of you are transporting them still not inflated in the backpack. The backpack it comes with is a well-made, strong material backpack. It's not the most padded backpack on the market, but because of that, it does keep the overall weight down of the backpack. There is padding behind the whole of the back area and a nice amount of padding around the shoulder straps, and there is a waist strap, but it isn't over padded like some other brands on the market. It is a comfortable bag to use, and again, it's not too heavy, so if you are packing it down and putting it on your board after and taking it with you, it really doesn't weigh you down in that sense. It's a nice big bag that's very easy to get the board and the pump in. When it comes to pumping up your board, it's a very simple process. You unroll the board and you pump it up near the back of the board. It has a standard inflation valve that you see with many other iSups, and it comes as standard with a Bravo HP4 pump, which is very easy to use. We've tested this pump many times before, and it is available with other brands as well. It's a really good quality pump from one of the best pump manufacturers in the world. It's a double action pump, which means it pumps on the upstroke and on the downstroke, and then when the pumping gets hard, you can then turn the nozzle valve at the back of the pump over to one way, so then it only pumps on the downstroke, which makes it much easier and you get less fatigue in your arms. Obviously, there is a fair amount of volume to this board, and it is a single chamber pump, so it is going to take you a little longer. It's no longer than other equivalent brand pumps and boards on the market, but it is longer than a double chamber pump would do. But then the good thing about having a smaller pump is if you are taking it with you when you're touring, you have a lighter, smaller pump to transport on your board. The recommended pressure for this is up to 20 psi, so it does hold a large amount of pressure. Always, I say, it's nice to see a high recommended psi pressure when it comes to inflatable paddleboards. If a brand has a high recommended pressure of 15, then really for us, it doesn't sort of stand up that they're really wanting you to put that much air in it. maybe because it can't take that much air, or really they're not happy for it to go to the higher pressure. Them recommending 20 psi really gives us a lot of confidence that this board is well made. When we tested it, we did have it pumped up to 20 psi, and we will speak about the deflection or how bendy this board is in a minute when we're talking about it on the water. But for a lot of you out there, you will not need to pump it up to the full 20 psi. Definitely if you're a lighter paddler, 55, 65, 75 kilograms, and you're not really pushing the performance of this board, you're just general flat water, fast cruising, pumping up to 15, 16, 17 psi will be absolutely fine for you. Just keep the higher psi, the 20 psi, for those days where you need that little bit extra performance. The nose cone comes ready fitted to the board, so you haven't got to do anything with that when you're getting on the water. And to give you an idea of how the board is made separately with the nose cone off, pumped up completely to its airtight, and then the nose cone is then placed on and attached separately. So you've got no worry about the air escaping around the nose cone. Before you get on the water, you're going to have to turn your board over and put in your US fin. It comes with a nice slimline US fin box, and it's very easy to locate and do up. It's not a quick release fin. You don't need a screwdriver or anything. It just has a thumb screw that's very easy to do up with your fingers. The board we tested came with a branded up Fit Ocean coiled leash. It was a nice comfortable length of leash. It wasn't too short. We could stand in a normal position and we could move around the board. It's a pretty average black coiled leash. It is branded up and it does do the job absolutely fine, and I don't see any need for you to upgrade that, even if you are taking it downwinding or if you're going for a more adventurous touring sup session. So just before you get on the water, if you are going to be taking this board touring, there are some good bungee straps at the front and the back of the board. They are nicely located up near the front of the board, so they're not too far away from your standing area. They are not the biggest of bungees, but they are adequate. When Will took this board on a SUP touring adventure on the North Devon coast, he did take a fair amount of weight on this board, and he did say that they were okay. They could obviously be a little bit bigger, but they did get a large bungee cargo under the front there, and you can get a good size dry bag under the back here as well. The carry handle is really nice on this board. It has a neoprene wrapped carry handle, but it has a tube in the center of it, so it's a nice shape when you are carrying it. There isn't any handles on the front and the back, so if you are going to put a lot of weight on your board, you're better off doing that right by the water's edge. When you get on the board, you will notice the grippy EVA Diamond deck pad, especially if you're barefoot. It's a very comfy deck pad, and it's nice to have it throughout the whole of the back of the board, and it does cover most of the rails of the board as well. Perfectly placed and exactly where you would want it on your board. When it comes to paddling this board, first off, let's have a look at the outline shape of this board. So 13.2 long and 30 wide, a good amount of length there, and it has a nice flat profile of the rocker line, which is the curve of the board underneath, so it does transfer the power from you into the board, and it moves you along the water really quickly and effortlessly with a good amount of glide. Very good straight line tracking because of the outline shape, and now it's quite parallel down the rails, and it's got a nice big US center box fin, and as I said, the fin box is a good shape as well, so it doesn't slow you down. So it's a very smooth and easy board to paddle. Because of that, it's not as stable as the 32 wide boards. If you're after a board with a little bit more stability, a 32 wide board with a bit more width is going to give you that more stability. But again, as I said, it's going to be faster because it isn't so wide. The narrower you go, the faster your board will travel across the water. And it being 13.2 long opposed to 12.6 gives you that bit more extra glide, gives you that much more extra power for per paddle stroke you put in. You get much more forward momentum with the board. If you're using this on flat water, this board performs well, and I would say similar to other inflatable paddleboards on the market of the same size, but this board really comes into its own when it's been paddled on choppy, open water, into wind, downwind, and it's all to do with the nose shape. Having that nose is so much better at penetrating the water and stopping the water sucking the board down. It's a very strange thing to say, but if you go downwinding with an inflatable paddleboard, sometimes they have the tendency for the noses to tend to suck and pull you down and stick to the water and not really release like a hard composite board does. That nose really helps the water wrap around the nose if you're nose diving, but then as soon as it comes out of that nose dive, it tends to then lifts the nose up, and lets the water travel down the board much faster. So it doesn't have that sucky, sticky feeling that a lot of the other boards of the same size without the nose do have, especially when you're downwinding and catching small bumps. This was something that Will definitely noticed when he took it SUP touring over the weekend. Very quick to paddle. Definitely if you're doing downwind runs, even with a lot of cargo on this board, the nose really helped the paddling, the comfort of the paddling, and paddling long distances, which is exactly what you want, because you're going to be buying this as a SUP touring board or as a fast cruising board. So the board really is geared up for paddling fast because of the outline overall shape, and the nose there really makes it happy in a lot of open water sea conditions, which so many inflatable paddle boards do struggle with. And another reason why this board is so comfortable taking a large amount of a weight and it performs well in those sort of open, choppy waters is the stiffness of the board. Now, when we put these boards, like we put all inflatable paddle boards through our deflection test, which is where we measure how much the board bends or deflects, we put it on a gap of 1.5 meters apart, and we put a weight of 75 kilograms in the center of the board, and then we measure how much the board bends or deflects. This board has a very good deflection when we tested it. We tested it at 15 psi and at the recommended max pressure of 20 psi. At 15 psi, it dropped 12 millimeters, which is right up there with some of the stiffest boards at that same pressure, 15 psi. But then when we tested it at 20 psi, it went to 10 millimeters, which is a really stiff board. Hasn't got any battens, hasn't got any stiffening rods down the sides of the boards. The stiffest boards we've ever tested, inflatable boards, have been at 7, and some of the most flexible have been around the sort of mid 25s. So this is a very stiff board, even at 15 psi. But if you want to get that performance up, getting it up to 20 psi will give you that much more stiffness. Now that's definitely due to the construction, to the woven drop stitch, to the multiple layers of PVC, the rail bands, what they've done on it, and the actual manufacturing, and make sure the quality is up there with every board. Really quite impressive to have a board of that stiffness, and the weight, the overall weight as well, is an impressive thing as well. So a good standout for us on the deflection is this FitOcean Force board. When it comes to turning this board, because it is 30 wide, it isn't going to be as easy to turn as a 32 wide board, but because it has a little bit of width still at the tail, and there is a nice tail kick pad right at the back with a good grippy EVA deck pad going right to the tail, it's definitely exactly how we would expect a 30 wide board of this length to turn and perform. We've tested many other boards of the similar sort of characteristics, and they all feel about the same. With the bungees further forward here, it does mean that you can load the back of the board up, and you can still step over the back of the board to do your sort of pivot based turn. This is something that Will talks about a lot when he's SUP touring. You might still be turning in smaller areas where you can't quite maneuver your board around, and having the ability to stand over your SUP equipment, your cargo here, is great to have that extra turning ability, opposed to having your cargo right at the back of the board. It's A, harder to get to, and B, when you want to turn it, you can't actually get further back at all to turn it either. So I think now's a good time to talk about how much weight you could get onto this board. And I think you could paddle this board up to 100 kilograms in weight of paddler if you're a fairly competent paddler. Beginners, some more intermediate base paddlers up to 90 kilos, 85 kilos, because it is 30 wide. Remember, if you want that extra width, extra stability, you've got to go 32, a little bit wider. Your overall weight, including cargo, take up to about 140 kilograms, and I think that's a fair amount of weight you can have in your dry bags at the front and the back, and including your rider weight as well. When it comes to packing this board up, it's definitely not any harder. If anything, it's a little bit easier than some other boards in the market. Pop the pin down, all the air comes out. And because it's got a carbon nose cone, you can then roll the board around the nose cone, and it rolls up fairly compact, and it's nice and easy to get in the bag. It's fairly easy to get the board comfortable on your back, and the backpack does have various straps so you can pull it down and tighten it up. And because it has wheels as well, you have the option to pull the backpack along, and the wheels are on the other side of your backpack straps so they don't get tangled up with the wheels when you're rolling it down the road. So now let's finish off. Let's talk a bit about the brand, the warranty, the environmental awareness of the brand, and talking about the pros and cons, and summarizing the FitOcean Force board. So FitOcean was founded back in 2013 by a group of surfers and shop owners across Europe, and then they got their first boards into the market in 2015. From there, they've been focusing on making good quality products that hit a very good price point that definitely contend with some of the best boards on the market. They have a large amount of boards in their range, and there's a lot of information about them and the stuff that they produce on their website. All of their boards come with a 3-year warranty, and looking at the environmental side of FitOcean, it's clear to see that they are trying to push towards being as good as they can with the environmental products they put in, but also what they are doing to their environment with their paddleboards. They're doing beach cleans, they're trying to do river pickups, and also they have a contract with their factory that no plastics go into any of the local waterways where their boards are produced. As far as we're aware, there's no recyclable based materials on the paddleboards themselves yet, but definitely with us highlighting it and with the brand message that we get from FitOcean, it does look like they would be trying to go towards that in the future, and that is something that we would highly recommend for them and for all paddleboard manufacturers. Finishing off with pros and cons and value for money. Well, the pros are there's quite a lot of pros to do with this board. The weight is a really big standout for us. The stiffness is definitely something that has to be spoken about. And the nose cone itself, carbon nose cone, a beautiful thing on there. It's a great work of art, definitely for you faster paddlers and the more technical racers out there. Attractive asset having that on your board. The bungees and the setup for touring is well thought out, and it is going to get a lot of people paddling further with a lot of weight on their board, but not slowing them down too much because it's still a good, efficient shape overall. Cons, well, to make this board even better and even faster, it would be nice to see some sort of water release edge at the back of the board to stop the drag at the back of the board. You have an amazing nose section at the front of the board that enters the water and makes the water really work efficiently at the front of the board, but at the back of the board you still have a tiny bit of drag that you do have with all inflatable paddleboards that haven't got a squarer tail section at the back. Extra carry handles definitely would be needed, especially if you're looking at it as a proper touring board. At the front and at the back would definitely make it easier when you're getting your kit to and from the beach, especially if you've got weight on the front and on the back. Value for money, well, they are up there at the price point. Not the most expensive paddleboards in the market for sure, and a lot more money than the cheapest paddleboards in the market. So for that price point, you are getting a well engineered and well finished product that I would be definitely happy to say is to a high standard. The markings, the glue markings, the deck pad, the graphics, everything is really well placed. There's no glue marks, there's no wobbly lines to the rail tape, so you definitely have that higher manufacturing quality control. Definitely it's coming out with what we can see looking at this board. So you are paying for the higher quality. It is a valued price point. If you want a better quality board, you are going to have to pay a little bit more for it. And of course, you've got the carbon nose, which you don't see on any other brands. In summary, FitOcean are making some very fast performance inflatable paddleboards that are winning a lot of races in and around Europe. Having the technology of the nose cone really shows that they are trying to make a board that is not only inflatable but performs as well as a hard board. Definitely it's a very fast touring cruising board. If you are looking at it for sole touring, you are going to be able to do this on this, and if you're looking at it just to paddle a little bit quicker but still have a little bit more width there at 30 wide compared to a narrow race board, it is going to suit you to get on the water and paddle fast. We are looking forward to hopefully getting this in the Saltwater Pro test this spring. In the touring test, this board will be interesting to go up against some of the other best inflatable touring boards on the market. I hope you found this review interesting and informative. Give it a like if you like it, it does make a difference to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out Saltwater Mag if you haven't already, and if you're mad keen on SUP, go check out Saltwater Pro. There's loads more content that you don't see on YouTube. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on YouTube or Saltwater.